Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the UK Crime Book Club pub quiz, just not in a pub. No, this time we're back in my house. We're also in the houses of two fantastic authors, which I'm going to introduce to you right now. I'm delighted today to have with me two of my favourite authors, actually. Not only two of my favourite authors, two of my favourite Twitter personalities from the author world. I do enjoy reading their content, so it's great to have you both here today. First up is the author of the Dempsey Devlin series, the Killer Intent universe, as it's known. An author who says he hopes to be described as fun, but fears he'll be described as irritating. Tony Kent. Hello, Tony. How are you?
Oh, I'm well. I can't see what you can see, so.
I see you're having a wee break from Twitter at the minute. I will miss that, I must say, but I do get it. Being careful not to go into anything too political here, as we're not allowed to do that here. But yeah, I do enjoy your tweets on those issues. So I will miss that, but I totally understand why you're having that little breather.
You know, it's been driving me absolutely mad, and I've realised I've just got too obsessed with it. So
you won't last.
I need a break.
You never last. You always say you're going to last. I'm definitely having another one, and then before I know it, you're gobbing off, getting angry, and swearing at other boxing fans. So it's always good. I know you'll be back by the end of the week.
Well, the problem is this whole Chris Eubank, Nigel Benn thing has happened now. Conor Benn thing has happened.
Yeah,
and so I'm desperate to get involved in that. I'm really desperate to get involved in that, and I can't. I've got to stick to the rules.
Let's see if you can make it to the end of the week. March, I think you said you'd be back by, so that's quite a long time.
2 months, just 2 months. 2 months.
Sorry, 2 months.
We'll see.
No chance.
Neil's like no, and up against Neil tonight, up against Tony tonight. We've got Neil Lancaster, who, when telling me what he knew about his opponent tonight, ended his answer with, "Don't tell him I said that." So I won't say it. He is, of course, the man behind the Night Watch, Dead Man's Grave and more. Neil, thrilled you're here this evening. How are you feeling?
I'm all right. I'm all good. I had COVID after bloody Scotland, but that's gone away, thankfully. So, yeah, no, I'm good. I've been working hard today. So, well, hard-ish. Not very hard at all, really, but, you know, existing.
And how's Peggy? Who doesn't love the bin day tweets?
Yeah, I keep missing it. She got a big treat this week. But all the binmen were all crowded round her, but I forgot to get my camera ready in time. Yeah, no, she's great. She's great. Crazy as ever.
Excellent stuff. Right. We'll go through the rules for everyone who's playing along at home and for the two gentlemen with me today, and then we'll get cracking. We've got 5 rounds of varying amounts of questions, usually 5, but the last round's a little bit longer this time out. There's no shouting out in the chat or for you gentlemen. It's a case of writing down your answers on pen and paper. At the end of each round, we'll go through the questions, work out the answers, work out your scores. And this month, because we've got a little bit of a friendly rivalry between our two contestants, we have the first ever UKCBC Sorry You Failed wooden spoon, which is being reversed in my picture, but you get the gist. So one unlucky contestant tonight is going to be taking that home, and that will be taking pride of place. And we expect to see it doing the rounds on the festivals and all sorts. Excellent. Any questions, gentlemen?
No.
So the wooden spoon goes to the loser or the winner?
To the loser.
We see that's hard because I want to win that, but I also want to. This is conflicting with all of my competitive instincts.
Well, I shouldn't play against a championship boxer, should I? Really? This is a man who used to compete and get punched in the face for fun.
Well, this is true. I mean, who knows what one of the rounds might be? Maybe we've got a physical round like the Krypton Factor where we'll have to get you into a ring some point.
Oh, yeah, that's going to happen.
Right. Well, round 1, you'll be relieved to know, Neil, is just books. Yes.
I'm not very good at that.
To be precise. Sorry about that. I'm sure you both devastated to hear that, to be honest. But it is a crime book club pub quiz. So we do have to stick to the theme somewhat. And we begin with crime books. 5 questions about crime coming up. Question number 1. It's not a crime book per se. Hilary Mantel, who sadly passed away last month, was perhaps best known for Wolf Hall, which followed the rise of which historical figure? Not even a crime book in any way, shape or form, but it felt apt. So question 1 again. Hilary Mantel, who sadly passed away last month, was perhaps best known for Wolf Hall, which followed the rise of which historical figure? Hello to everyone joining us in the chat. If you do have any questions for the gentlemen, do shout them out. I will try my best to keep my eye on that and fit them in, but I do tend to just waffle, so apologies if I don't.
Has anyone ever cheated by having their Siri next to the speaker? Because it's just occurred to me, if I put Siri next to the speaker, I get all your answers.
That would be one way of doing it. I think we'd know. I think we'd, and some of the questions, I think the questions will beat Siri this month. I think Siri will struggle. That's how confident I am. Question number 2. And if you've read this month's newsletter, you'll know the answer here. What is the colour of Ophelia in the new A.S. French novel? One of our member authors got a new book coming out. Ophelia what? And it is a colour. If in doubt, pop a colour down. It's one of the ones off the rainbow, so I've given you a 1 in 7 chance. That's kindness.
I want a special dispensation. I'm completely colourblind. I can't even read the word of colours.
Some shade of grey. Question 2 again. What is the colour of Ophelia in the new A.S. French novel? Question 3, and again taken from our newsletter. Which flower makes up the name of Miranda Reich's latest novel? That's right, Donny. You did start off on -10 last time, but at least you're starting with a clean slate this time on 0. No cheating, hopefully. Why did I dock you 10 points last time? I forget now. Donna is well known for enjoying some of the rounds in this quiz. I've got a round, especially for Donna later on. She's going to love it. Question 3 again. What flower makes up the name of the Miranda Reich's latest novel? Question number 4. Which author, and regulars viewers of the quiz will know you're into a 50-50 territory here. Which author created the Dempsey and Devlin series, also known as the Killer Intent universe? And question 4 again. Which author created the Dempsey and Devlin series, also known as the Killer Intent universe? Question 5. Maybe you'll spot a theme. Going Dark, Going Rogue, and Going Back make up the Tom Novak series by which author? And question 5 again. Going Dark, Going Rogue, and Going Back make up the Tom Novak series by which author? Now, as we've said, you two are mates, but you come from different sides of the same coin. We've got an ex-cop on that side and a defence barrister on the other. It almost feels like there could be a book or at least an odd couple style sitcom that could be made out of you two, where you're off fighting crime in your younger days. Is that never something you fancy doing, getting together and creating that?
We thought about a podcast. We thought about a podcast idea, which was been mulling around a bit, kind of a true crime podcast, told from the perspective of a cop and a lawyer. So a defence lawyer particularly. We've milled about that. We've done a couple of little experiments with it, and then that may rear its head. But in terms of fiction, in terms of those characters, no, that actually had never occurred to me. But now you say it.
Well, we did talk about a crossover, didn't we? A few weeks ago. In fact, we talked about it at Bloody Scotland, but alcohol had obviously been consumed, so it's clearly slipped your mind. But we definitely talked. We had conversations because I said about a Novak and a Devlin novella, and I said it could work. It'd be dead easy. But it's like everything, it's time, I'm writing, I'm sort of busy with the series I'm writing at the moment. I am, I've just finished book number 5. Tony somehow manages to write books and be a barrister in a busy firm. So, we were technically opposite side of the tracks, but we're also both council house boys from council estates. So, I don't know, I think we have more in common than we do differences. I don't know what you think, Tone.
Well, funnily enough, I think I've said this to you before. My experience is that defence barristers get along with cops better than prosecution barristers do.
That's true.
Defence barristers have way more respect for cops and what they do. Prosecution barristers kind of have a tendency to look at cops almost as their underlings, and certainly as a resource. Whereas, for us, we've got to go up against them, but you're going up against your equals effectively. So. We regardless of background, some very posh barristers as well. They're not all like me, and even some of those get on very well with the cops. But I've always, since being a barrister, I've got on a lot better than cops than I anticipated. When I was growing up, not so much, but since being more exposed to them.
And exposed in different ways, I would imagine, from the youth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Excellent stuff. Shall we have a quick look at the answers to round one, gents?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone brave enough to give me the answer to question one, which was Hilary Mantel and Wolf Hall? What historical character?
Thomas Cromwell.
It was indeed Thomas Cromwell.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. There you go. So it's 1-0.
I've not read a lot of historical fiction. I'm not going to lie. I just started. I read my first decent one, and it was Shona MacLaine, S.G. MacLaine's The Bookseller of Inverness, which is a triumph. So I really, anyone who likes historical fiction, Shona has got a brain the size of Bournemouth, quite literally, and it is a fantastic book, and it has actually lit a bit of interest in me in historical fiction. So I do have Abir Mukherjee's book lined up, ready to read, but my TBR pile is off the dial. So
Plus we hate Abir, so we're not reading.
Yeah, plus Abir is a pain in the arse, and he gives me and Tony a right hard time whenever we go to.
I was going to say there's a sort of like a little three-way between you guys, isn't there? There's always a little bit of a banter between all. You know, at some point we're going to have to get him on here and see how he measures.
Don't get us started on Imran Mahmood as well when he starts.
No. Yeah. How bad's the language allowed to be? I want to use some bad language now.
We can go there. Question number 2. Did anyone know the colour of Ophelia? Tony, it's just
I guessed,
isn't it? Yeah, you guessed. Yeah,
guessed red.
It's a good guess. Red is the correct answer. Ophelia red.
Okay, well, I said blue because I didn't have a clue. So
there we go. There.
That's your colour blindness coming to your aid because you wouldn't know what red looks like.
Absolutely. Red, green, orange, all the same thing.
Yep. Did anyone know the name of the flower from Miranda Wright's latest novel?
Again, a guess, rose.
I made the same guess.
Forget-me-not was the answer.
Well, I would have never got that.
Well, that makes more sense.
It just does.
That would have been a much cleverer answer.
Question number 4. Who is the author who created the Dempsey and Devlin series?
Oh,
that's me.
Some knobhead.
Some knobby called Tony Kent, I believe. Tony, perfect opportunity here for you to tell anyone who doesn't know anything about your work just what it's all about. Bring us up to speed.
As quickly as possible. It's a series of books set in what we grandiosely call the Killer Intent universe. The reason that we call it that is because there are currently two main protagonists. One is Michael Devlin, who is a criminal barrister, Irish criminal barrister with a dark past, practicing in London. And the other character is Joe Dempsey, who is kind of my idea of James Bond for the 21st century. He's a good man who does bad things for a particular intelligence agency within the United Nations. So he gets called upon when serious work needs to be done. They both know each other. They meet each other in Killer Intent. Killer Intent is a political thriller, and then it kind of spirals off from there. The next book is Marked for Death, which is very much a legal thriller, serial killer legal thriller, which is very much a Michael Devlin book. Dempsey's hardly in it. We then go off Power Play, which is an American set, UK and American set political thriller, all about the White House and where the power really lies. And then my most recent released book, No Way to Die, is purely a Dempsey book, again set in the US, and it's all about him tracking down a dirty bomb that may or may not be deployed by people who may or may not resemble the January 6th insurgents in Capitol Hill. So it's fast-paced. I would hope to say gripping, page turners. They're action movies in book form, with an awful lot of conspiracy, terrorism, political, bit of legal. Basically, I write what I like to read.
Yeah, and they are the page turners is a really good way to describe your books. They are absolutely that. Yes, excellent. Neil, I don't suppose you know the answer to question 5, do you? Going Dark, Going Rogue, Going Back, Tom Novak series. Does it ring the bell?
I'll give it a guess. I might have written them.
might have done. Tell me a
little
bit.
Would it be a real scoop now if he admitted he hadn't?
Yeah, maybe.
Like
maybe I had a ghost.
My scripts would be out the window right there. Tell us a little bit about your work, Neil. Tell anyone who's not familiar with your.
Well, I've written 2 series. I started writing just on spec a few years ago, and I wrote the Novak thrillers, which are loosely police thrillers, but they go seriously off-piste. Novak is he's a refugee from Bosnia. He's an ex-Royal Marine Commando. He's ex-Special Reconnaissance Regiment, who ended up being a cop and being an undercover cop and working in deep cover, undercover infiltrations. And I wrote a series of books about him where those skills were deployed. He's something of a psychopath, doesn't really care about killing people, doesn't turn a hair. He'll kill anyone and it won't bother him. But the fact that it doesn't bother him actually bothers him. Not bothered about killing him, he's bothered about the fact that it doesn't bother him. And so he's got his foster family that brought him up, who keep his feet on the ground. And in the 3 books, those 3 books, he gets into all kinds of strife. But I haven't written any of those for quite a while now, because I just delivered the 3rd one, Going Rogue, which is also in Sarajevo and is around drones using EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Really, yeah, I love the books, but I then got an idea for another series just out of the blue when an old guy I met at Christmas in 2019 told me about a gravestone in Caithness, and this wild area of Scotland, sort of a couple of hours north of where I live. And he said this gravestone is in this graveyard in the middle of nowhere, literally nothing for miles around. And the gravestone just said, "This grave never to be opened." And as a crime writer, you think, whoa, hang on a second.
Yeah.
So I wanted to write about that because I'd never heard of anyone talking about it. I wanted to do a Scottish crime book because I live in Scotland. Scotland's my home. I've been here 7 years now. And I came up with the idea for the Max Craigie thrillers. And the whole concept of that was a feud that originated in 1830 comes back to life in the modern day. And it is essentially a Scottish gangland thriller and massive amounts of police corruption. And that went well. I got a deal with HQ, part of HarperCollins, for that. I then signed a 3-book deal with them. I've written 2 more. The Blood Tide, which is around drug importation around the west coast of Scotland. And the most recent one, which has just come out, The Night Watch, which is about basically there's a serial killer at loose doing extrajudicial killings of people who are acquitted, or rather than acquitted, subject of a not proven verdict in the Scottish court. I basically decided I want to do that because I heard that it used to be referred to as a bastard verdict, and I thought that would sound really cool on the page. So that book, The Night Watch, came out the beginning of September, out in hardback on the 15th. And that is about these extrajudicial killings, and the killer seems to know a little bit too much. So the whole concept of that is, how can you investigate a serial killer if the serial killer is on the investigation team?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm up to now. And I've written the 4th one. That's ready to go. That'll be coming out next year. And I've just delivered the 5th one to my agent. So
wow,
it's all been busy.
Well ahead of their schedule there. Well ahead of the curve. Yeah.
You know, Tony fucking hates me right now.
I do. I absolutely hate you. I spent the entire day trying to rewrite the opening of my 5th one. Because when I was writing the 5th one, I was kind of telling myself the story at the beginning. When you're looking for the story. And I like to begin my books generally, not so much killer intent because there was a kind of a longer opening, but generally I like to begin with a bang. I like to have a relatively short first chapter where bad things happen, and it kind of lets you hit the ground running. And this book didn't do that, so I've been trying to condense what became a sort of 7-chapter sequence into 2 chapters. And yeah, so when I'm saying, as I'm listening to Neil, I absolutely hate it. It's just
Tony, me and you both. I'm going through rewrite hell myself at the moment, and condensing a very stodgy opening into a much shorter, punchier opening is going to make me cry. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to cry. I might start crying now. But yeah, thanks.
It's not been fun.
Yeah,
but I have to say, just because he's, I mean, yeah, mainly because he's there. Because otherwise, why would we be talking about him? Genuinely, the Max Craigie stuff is like lightning in a bottle. I read the first one. I've obviously read the second one. I've just finished the 3rd one. It took me ages to read the 3rd one because I got caught up in the middle with some other stuff going on. So I've gone back to it. It is, the 3rd one's the best of them. But as I genuinely believe, and I've said this openly and on Twitter and on Facebook, it's the best new series being written today. It really is. There's an expression that was used about the Flashman novels. One of the best reviews I've seen, which was effective. I think it's something along the lines of like seeing a new star born in the sky, and the element of Christ Almighty, what the hell is this? And I already think that's what this series is. It is Novak was very good, but the jump from Novak to Max Craigie is huge, and I really can hate him.
Well, that's very flattering, Tony, and coming from you, obviously. I don't want to blow too much smoke up each other's backsides because people will puke. Because we're normally slagging each other off and taking a piss out of each
I
other.
was not expecting this.
No, it is. Like, I love it.
This will end now.
Yeah,
This is
the gloves need to come off.
If the gloves come off, I'm screwed because look at the size of it. Jesus.
Well, I mean, talking to the gloves coming off, we are now into round two, and round two, brand new round. It's called specialist subjects.
Okay.
Now, I'm pitching you two head to head against each other here in your own specialist subjects. There's 6 questions in the round, 3 questions for each specialist subject. If you answer a question on your own specialist subject correctly, you get a point. If you answer your opponent's subject correctly, you get 3. Those playing along at home, you get 2 for every question because that way it balances out nicely that everyone gets 12 for the round. Now, you guys, when we were prepping for this question, for this interview, for this quiz, I sent you both a questionnaire where I asked you what your most look forward to subjects might be and least look forward to. You both gave me some a couple of look forward to, so I picked what I thought would be nice ones for both of you. So, Neil, you gave me a nice narrow focus. So you've got the 2003 Rugby World Cup final, which I thought was really nice. And Tony, I couldn't resist for you going for 1980s television. So I thought that'd be quite a fun one. So we've gone with that. So yeah, you both. There's 3 questions on each. They'll alternate between each round. So we're going to start with rugby and the 2003 World Cup final. So question number 1, and everyone else is going to be like, these are hard. Question number 1.
I probably won't know this, to be honest. I don't know it that much. I was under pressure. I was writing it quickly. And just put that
I should have gone for what was you put another one? I can't remember what it was. Oh,
I think
the Jam lyrics. Yeah, I thought
I probably would have been better at that. But
that would have been really specialist.
that would have been specialist because I'm all right on the Rugby World Cup, but I know nothing about the Jam.
Well, yes. Another reason why I did it, I thought I'd give you half a chance. But yes, question 1. What nationality was referee Andre Watson for the final? And moving, doing that one again. What nationality was the referee Andre Watson? The England-Australia 2003 final. Moving across to Tony's specialist subject now, which is 1980s television. Michael Elphick starred as the eponymous star. That was good writing, wasn't it? Of which TV show that first aired in 1986, followed a motorcycle-obsessed ex-fireman turned small-time businessman / private investigator.
I might be better on
shit show.
I might be better on Tony's questions, actually.
Well, I did feel that as Tony was into rugby and as 1980s TV is quite an accessible subject, I thought that was kind of trying to be quite fair to both of you.
That's okay.
Trying to get the points up there. So that question again, Michael Elphick was the eponymous star of which TV show that first aired in 1986, following a motorcycle-obsessed ex-fireman turned small-time businessman / private investigator.
How did that show ever get made? When you consider that what you've just said is his best possible description,
it really is.
It's as succinct and pithy it could be. How did that get past sort of the elevator pitch?
I mean,
someone tried to sell me that as a book. I don't fuck off. It's rubbish.
I'm not sure I even watched it. I mean, I know, but I do. I remember the show, but I don't think I even watched it.
There were a lot of hard drugs floating around television in the 80s and 90s. Let's be honest. A lot of decisions were based on that. That's where a lot of that was coming from. Question number 3, and we're on to rugby again. Who scored the opening try in the 2003 final?
I can picture him.
If you draw a really good picture, right? If you draw a really excellent picture, I'll give you the points.
I can remember it. I watched the blooming program when I was in my COVID bed. I watched the Amazon Prime show on it. Whoa, God, what was it?
I think I'm wrong about who it is, but I've gone for the obvious one.
Question 3 again. Who scored the opening try in the 2003 final?
I remember it. I can picture the try.
Question 4. Name the pilot of Airwolf for the first 3 seasons, the greatest TV show of the 80s.
We don't want the actor, they want the actual. I mean, that's it. Yeah.
Name the what? The actual name of the pilot?
The pilot, yeah, not the
No.
actor, the character.
Right.
For the first 3 seasons, not the 4th and final one. So that's question 3 again. Name the pilot of Airwolf for the first 3 seasons.
Every single one of the helicopters that played Airwolf has crashed.
Yeah, they have. They
It's a
have.
shit
One was
machine.
an air ambulance in Germany. I can't remember what the other one was. But yeah, they are not.
It looked really cool.
Yeah,
It looked so cool, but it was obviously
there's a mocked up one that was in a museum, but I think the museum's now closed down. I'm being told this is fiendish even for me. Who doesn't know the pilot of Airwolf? I'm sorry.
Exactly. Come on.
I don't think I ever watched Airwolf either. What was I
You
doing?
don't know
in
the
the
theme
80s?
There's
tune.
something to catch up on. It's on Forces TV, I think, at the moment, so you can catch up.
What was I doing? I was in the forces in the 80s, so that's maybe what I was doing. Maybe I was being busy in Germany. I was living in Germany in the 80s.
There you
go.
go.
Well, never mind.
Missed it. Where are we? Question 5, and this is the hardest one for the rugby round, I think. What was the score at half time in the game?
I don't even know what it was at full time.
Yeah, I've made the last ones really hard, and I apologise for that. And if you thought the rugby one was hard, wait till we get to the TV one. What was the score at the half time in the game, the 2003 Rugby World Cup final? And question 6. What was the full name of the alien in Alf?
Oh, I know his first name, I think.
Which definitely went into the Today I Learned category for me.
It's something really...
I
think I know the first name.
Yeah.
I think I know the first name.
We'll give half marks for a first name. We'll give half marks.
I might be wrong, but I think I do.
Question 6 again. What was the full name of the alien in Alf? So where were you for the Rugby World Cup final, Neil? You remember watching it?
Yeah, I was in my house in Hertfordshire when I was living in Hertfordshire.
Up early morning for it?
Yeah, I can't remember what time it was. Yeah, it was sort of mid-morning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was very early. It's the earliest I've ever been pissed. I watched it in an Aussie pub in Fulham. At the end of the match, I bought 2 massive. At the end of the match, I was trying to make the bar staff take off their Aussie tops and put on England tops, and they were resolutely refusing. So I bought 2 bottles of champagne and drenched them, and they had no choice. I was oh god, that was a big day.
It certainly was. It's a shame I can't remember that much about it. I should have picked another specialist.
The detail for me is gone.
Funny enough,
someone on here said. Someone on here saying I was little in the 80s. I was born in 1978. I wasn't exactly big in the 80s.
I think rugby, that Rugby World Cup final is probably the only game of rugby I've ever watched from start to finish. Admittedly, I was, however, stuck in a chair with a broken neck at the time, which probably explains it. I was a captive audience that day, but so I didn't quite have a drink to celebrate like you, Tony. But yeah, it's one that sticks in the memory. Of course, I didn't give the obvious.
How did you break your neck?
That did involve alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. I'll catch up with you at a festival one day, and I'll tell you that story. That's a definite. That's an alcohol story because it's an alcohol story. Yeah, it's not one for the quiz. It's not one for the quiz. Shall we move on to the answers?
Yeah, let's.
Excellent stuff.
I'm intrigued to hear them.
Anyone have a punt at the nationality of the referee?
He's South African, wasn't he?
He was indeed South African. Yes. Yep. South African.
That's
3 points for Tony, 1 for Neil. Michael Elphick, what TV show would we have found him in 86 onwards?
Boom.
Indeed, boom. So it'd be 3 for you, Neil, if you got it right. 1 for you, Tony. The scorer of the opening try in the 2003 final, he's an Australian.
I can remember him. He was the fullback. He went out for a high kick, kicked it, and took it over. The only one I could think of was Takiri, but I don't think it is Lottie Takiri.
It is Lottie Takiri.
Oh man, I'm impressed with myself.
Good work.
Yeah, Lottie Takiri with the opening try.
Well, I couldn't remember. I was trying to. I think I was getting mixed up with Israel Folau, but he's much later.
Yeah. Dan, it was Lottie Takiri who got the opening try.
There you go.
Thank you for knowing that and not allowing me to butcher the pronunciation of his name. I appreciate that. Question 4. Who was the pilot of Airwolf for the first 3 series before he was killed?
Stringfellow Hook.
Indeed,
Ooh.
yes, replaced by his brother St. John for the 4th season. But yes, Stringfellow Hook. The score at half-time in the World Cup final.
I don't know. I guessed at 17-16, but I'm confident it wasn't that.
It was not.
I said 15-12, which doesn't work.
It was quite a decent lead for the English. It was 14-5 to England.
Right, okay.
Really?
Only got the try, and then England had got a try and a couple of penalties from Johnny Wilkinson. No one had converted a try in that game either. Been paying attention today to my research. And finally, the full name of Alf.
It's Gordon, isn't it? Gordon something.
Gordon Shumway.
No,
Right.
we didn't have a clue. I only knew him as alien life form. Hence...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was Gordon Shumway. Anyone regret picking their specialty subject there?
Yeah, a little bit. The Jam lyrics I'd have been fine.
I was all right, apart from your killer final question. I still got half a point. So.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Excellent stuff. Right.
I was thinking in my head it was Gordon Sumner, and I knew it couldn't be because that's Sting.
Yeah, that would have been the ultimate reveal, wouldn't it? You know, he takes off the mask and it is Sting inside there. Yeah, that would have been a plot twist.
Any excuse to get away from Trudy Styler.
Yeah. All that tantric stuff.
That's all I had in my head, but I thought I might now mention that.
And yet here we are with that image firmly engraved in our heads. Now, talking to television, you've both done work as expert interview subjects for TV. Is that something you enjoy doing? Because I've been on the other side. My day job is in TV production, and I've done a fair amount of police and true crime stuff myself, where we've interviewed people, and sometimes you can see people lagging and it's dragging on. Do you ever feel that, or do you enjoy it?
It's hard work. It's really hard work. I got approached by First Look TV that do an awful lot of, and subsequently Tony
previously
has done some. Yeah, and they're great guys. I mean, Will Hanrahan is the boss of the company, and he's an absolute gentleman. Yeah, and they're very good shows. They were all trending top on Twitter and all that sort of thing. Meet, Marry, Murder. But you get this stack, and Tony will bear this out, of case studies on mostly domestic murders.
Yep.
And you've got to try and commit this to memory to be able to tell the story on camera. And if you've done, I mean, you could get through 5, 6, 7 of them in a day. And I was tired at the end of the day. So yeah, it was all right. It was good fun. But hard work.
Yeah. They are long days.
I was very lucky with it because it bears a huge resemblance to the kind of the bread and butter days of when I was learning my job. When you're not trialing as a barrister, if you're not in a trial, then certainly when you start out, you're doing bits and pieces, small hearings that precede the trial, or alternatively sentences and things like that. And I was in a very, very busy chambers when I started out. So it used to be that on a Friday, for example, we go to Basildon Crown Court, and you'd have 17, 18 different hearings in 17, 18 different cases. So I, as a result, my mind is very used to jumping between cases, which meant that I can do 12, 15 of these in a day, which they love because it means they can record a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And they only have to pay me for a day.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about
but it's literally not something I would have been able to do had I not had the background and the training that I had. So for me, it's actually quite easy. Reading up on something, remembering it, and then talking a load of shit about it is basically my job. So
perfect.
So, really enjoy. I mean, it was Neil that recommended me to First Look, actually. So it's really enjoyed it. It's great work.
Yeah, I've just recorded another one, actually, not with First Look TV, with a company called Brown Bob Productions in Manchester. And that was all around, a case that started off really small and then got really big. But rather than just being a talking head in a night and getting lit in a hotel, they had me walking around Morecambe, of all places.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anyone from Morecambe here.
Don't say it.
No,
I'm not going to. But it's not London. And it was supposed to be like about a London crime. But they had me doing...
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it's just the way they shot it. So whereas before you just stand and you talk on your blah, 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 blah. Here, they'd have me doing all this sort of thing, going, looking and then going... And all that. So
Morecambe
was doubling for London.
Well, kind of. They wanted to sort of.
Is it like those cheap American shows where Vancouver doubles for New York?
Pretty much along those lines. They just wanted these outdoor shots and having me walking around looking moody, and all this. And it was all right. It was a couple of days of filming, and it's all nice. It's all profile raising, and you see it on. And that one's going to be on the Beeb, so it's quite nice that it's terrestrial TV. And they keep actually. I need to talk to you about that, Tony, because they're desperate for more cases.
There we go. Keep saying.
I have to think of one.
Speaking of First Look, I think when I worked on First Look TV, there's an episode of Evil Up Close where, because again low budget, I ended up playing the serial killer Alfredo Galan. So if anyone ever sees Evil Up Close coming up on your TV shows, keep an eye out.
I've done some Evil Up. I did Evil Up Close. I can't remember for which one, because when you do 10 of them in a day, you forget. You do them, and it's just gone from your head. And I did a lot of, and I did
we were doing one at a day back then. So
it was, and I did like Killer Britain with Dermot Murnaghan and all this sort of stuff. And I can't remember anything about any of them. Nothing.
They're all blurry.
I got a massive memory issue in terms of names, which is strange because my memory is very, very solid, except for names. So my sister will phone me up saying, "Oh, I just heard your voice on the TV, so I turned it on. It's such and such a case." I go, "Nope, no idea what you're talking about." Then she'll tell me one thing about the case, and I'll be able to tell her everything. Factually everything, but I couldn't name a single person. When I make a speech, if I stand up in front of a jury, I might make a speech that in a big case might last an hour and a half. And literally, when I'm doing that, the only thing that I have is a single bit of paper. And I put a line down the middle, and I write the names of the good guys, and I write the names of the bad guys, and that's literally my speech. Because I can remember everything else, but I cannot remember names. And I think that actually goes into my books as well, because I really struggle to come up with names. I mean, and I've got a list again, another list of the names that I have used, so I know not to keep using the same very obvious ones.
Excellent. I think that's a handy tool, actually. Yeah. Right. So when I do these quizzes, I mentioned earlier, it's good to glean out little bits of information from our authors. Tony, one thing I'd quickly like to touch on with you is your choice of pen name. How did you land on it?
Superman. It's my sole opportunity to have anything to do with Superman. My real name is Tony Wyatt. That's the name that I practice under, the name I was born with. That's the name I practice under as a barrister. And because I practice under it as I've done some fairly well-known cases. I've been lucky in my career. It's been a successful career, and as a result, I've been involved in some fairly well-known, fairly sort of front-page news cases. And initially, if you had Googled Tony Wyatt, you would find a lot of headlines about a lot of cases. And it occurred to me and my publishers at the time, it's probably not a good idea to compete with yourself. Yeah. So when people are Googling the books, we don't want them finding something else that's going to distract them completely. So we thought it has to be another name. Also, Wyatt in an alphabetized system is not very helpful. WY is going to be right down there by your feet. So I used to tell people that I decided on the name because K is pretty much in the middle if you get rid of the letters that don't ever really start words. So Q's and X's and that, K's about the middle. But that's bollocks. It was because it was Clark Kent. It's my only opportunity to use it. So I went with that.
Well, you might regret that now, because one of the things you said was one of the rounds that you would have hated coming up is geography. However, with two geographical surnames in front of me and only a limited amount of imagination, here we are with round 3, geography. Your own fault, Tony. Right, so these are 5 questions about crime books and their geographical locations. I'm not necessarily asking for the location, I might be asking for the author, as I'm doing in question number 1. Northumbria is the setting for which author's novels, or a large portion of which author's novels, that include Holy Island, Angel, and Bamberg. So Northumbria is the setting for which author's novels that include Holy Island, Angel, and Bamberg.
I know this.
There you go.
Who is it, Neil?
I almost told you that's your cross-examination technique. I almost folded.
Question 2. Stuart McBride is best known for the Logan McRae novels, which take place primarily in which Scottish county? Question 2 again. Stuart McBride is best known for his Logan McRae novels, which take place primarily in which Scottish county?
Good books. Very funny.
Very good books. I'm still thinking about the first question.
Question 3. The town of Corston is the main town of which fictional English county where Detective Chief Inspector Barnaby lives and works? The town.
No, that's all filmed where I live. I really should know this.
There's going to be a lot of, oh my God, when you hear the answer, if you can't get it. The town of Corston is the main town of which fictional English county where Detective Chief Inspector Barnaby lives and works?
That is a dangerous village. That's a very, very dangerous village. Can you imagine the amount of people that die there? I live right next to that village.
You do, well, still be
I've been here a long time and no one dies.
Question 4. Paul Teague's Left for Dead, Circle of Lies and Truth Be Told are all set around which northern bay? Question 4 again. Paul Teague's Left for Dead, Circle of Lies and Truth Be Told are all set around which northern bay?
I can only think of one northern bay.
And finally, question 5. In which English county would you find the Thursday Murder Club?
I've not read them.
I read the first one. I can't remember.
Question 5 again. In which English county would you find the Thursday Murder Club? As writers, how much does the place influence what you write? Are your stories, is it where it becomes like a secondary character at times, or is that something you try and stay away from? I'm guessing, Neil, perhaps with the second series, it perhaps plays into it more than with the Tom Novak series, perhaps?
I very much always base it in real places. You know, I don't. This is not to criticise anyone who does this, but it slightly turns me off when someone says that they're from the Westchestershire Constabulary. It just turns me off a little bit. So I think the Novak books always had quite a strong geographical setting, certainly to a degree. Certainly, you know, the third one was very much about Sarajevo. Very much the Craigie books are pan-Scottish set. I don't limit myself to one part of Scotland because I think one of the big attraction about Ian Rankin books, about Stuart McBride books, it is the location. You know, nobody writes about Edinburgh like Ian Rankin writes about Edinburgh. But I didn't want to tie myself down just to a particular city or anything like that. I wanted to give myself the opportunity to write about all of Scotland because it's just so staggeringly beautiful. But it can be also so incredibly grim. And the weather can be like another character because the weather can change so quickly. We always talk about it. From where I live in a very remote area. You know, I've got fantastic views out the front of the house, and you can see the weather coming. So, you know, I always think about when I'm starting to write the book, what's the weather going to be like? What's this period? Because I tend to condense these books down into just a few days. And what is the weather going to be like? Is it warm or cold? Is it spring? And I think that can bring an awful lot. Obviously, in Scotland, you can also add in the midges, you know, as an extra part of the atmosphere. I think it helps raise tension. So it means an enormous amount to me, and I will pick places to write about purely because I love them, and I will tailor the story to accommodate that. And I always write about real places. If they go to a restaurant or a pub, that pub exists. Which which I like to do because I also think, and I like to always try come back, at least have some of the action very close to where I live, because you getting a buy-in from the local community where you live can be really good, and you get a really engaged local audience. So I think it means a lot. I think to me, but it doesn't to everybody. And Tony's far more internationally set because he's trying to get it huge in America. So he quite rightly. He wants to develop that side of it.
And Tony, let's talk about that. Obviously, you do a lot more of the international settings, and is that places that you've been to, or how do you do your research on that?
So far, I've been everywhere that I've written about. The book that I'm writing at the moment is the first book I've just finished that I'm mulling over. Is the first one I've written about a place I've not been. It's set in The Hague. And it's there because the background to the case is a war crime trial, which can only happen in The Hague. So I've had to use a lot of Google Maps and a lot of detail, a lot of Googling, a lot of everything. I'm very happy to say that it was read by a friend of mine who, when he was talking back to me about it, was coming out of an awful lot of different, well, it's been half read by him. I've not sent him the whole thing, but was talking about certain chapters and saying, oh, that's really interesting because I was there as well. And how do you know about this? And I was really pleased that this guy actually thought I'd been there. So that was, that was very positive. But generally, it's based in places that I know. I mean, Neil's absolutely right. There is a big setting of my books in America, and partially because I do want to sell in America, but also because America's just this great big. I hate to use the word because it sounds so pretentious, but it's this massive canvas. And if you are, I mean, the stuff that happens in my book, if that happened in Britain every time, it would be absolutely the news of the year. In America, it's Wednesday. This stuff happens all the time. And so America just gives you this massive freedom to write this stuff without people saying, oh, come on, this can't keep happening. Because it well does keep happening in America. So you can write it and it gives you that freedom. So most of my books, America is, although the first book starts in London and goes to Ireland, and the second book is entirely London, despite that, the series itself is increasingly focused on America or centered on America. I mean, Power Play goes to Afghanistan. Mark for No Way to Die is all in America. The current book, which I would love to have a name for, but we chose one called Trust No One, and there are 3 of them coming out this year. So we're now in the limbo of, oh my God, what do we call it? The current one is, again, set mainly in The Hague, but there's a bit in America and upstate New York. So it's not so much that the location is a character for me, but the location is a tool. It allows me to do the things that I want to do. The one thing that I do, that one location that is recurring that I love, is where Dempsey lives. At the end of Killer Intent, Dempsey goes off to America. He's British based until the end of the book, then goes off to America. And where he lives in America, we first visit in Power Play, and that's where my wife used to live. I mean, literally in his apartment. His apartment is completely real, completely accurate. The address is correct and everything. Even the doorman downstairs is the same guy. Because I'm with Neil on this. I love to, if you visit a bar, if you visit a restaurant, if you visit anywhere in my books, even an apartment complex, it exists. Everywhere I describe exists, unless I'm going to destroy it. If I'm going to do something bad to have something bad happen, then I normally make it up. But generally, everywhere you visit is a place that certainly existed at the time of writing. Obviously, the way the economy works, maybe not existing
Not so much
anymore.
now.
But the apartment is an apartment that I spent a lot of time in when I was first with Victoria before she moved back to England. I used to fly to New York on a weekend. This is not because I had loads of money. It's because her job was a global brand ambassador. She used to fly everywhere. So she had so many air miles that I would just be able to take the air miles and fly to New York and then fly back.
Happy days.
And so I used to go and stay in her apartment, sit up. I mean, it was a Manhattan apartment, as they all are, very small. But it doesn't matter what they are because there's a balcony. Whenever there's a balcony in Manhattan, it's all you want. Yeah. So we used to sit on the 35th floor. I'd land at midnight. And then we'd sit on the 35th floor till sort of 6 a.m. just drinking rum. And I wanted that in the books. I wanted Dempsey to live there. So that of all the locations, that's the one that really means something.
Excellent stuff. Brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing, gentlemen. Shall we do the answers to that round there? Round number 3? Question 1. Did anyone know who the Northumbria-based books were by?
L.J. Ross.
Indeed, L.J. Ross. Yeah, that's correct. Question 2. What was the Scottish county? Logan McCrae.
Aberdeenshire.
Indeed, it was. Question 3. What's the county where the county town is Corston, where Detective Barnaby is found?
Made up shire.
Yeah, Westshire. I just guessed that.
Doesn't exist shire.
Well, the county itself is actually Midsummer.
For bollocks!
I knew that would be your action. Yeah, the county itself is apparently Midsummer, unless what I read was wrong when I was researching this question. Question 4: what is the Northern Bay that apparently looks like London?
Morecambe Bay.
It is indeed Morecambe Bay. And finally,
that was an absolute guess. It's the only bay that I know of up north.
I said Whitley Bay because I didn't know.
And you've just been there and talked about it. Or you were just talking about it anyway.
Yeah,
and question number 5. The Thursday Murder Club. What county?
I'm Wiltshire, I guess that because it felt that's type of area. It could be Sussex.
I wanted to say Wiltshire. But I thought I was going to say Sussex.
There's a massive clue on screen. It's Kent.
Oh, you're joking?
No, Kent.
Well, I thought Sussex because he's from Sussex, so that's why.
No, it's Kent. Apparently, is where they are. Right. Round number 4 is 5 degrees of UK crime book club. Here's how this one works. You've all heard of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, where we move from one famous person to Kevin Bacon within 6 steps. We do the same here at the UKCBC between Neil Lancaster and Tony Kent. Each answer to the question that I'm going to ask will link to the previous answer. So the first clue will be Neil Lancaster. The second answer will link to Neil Lancaster. The third will link to the previous, and so on. And the fifth will be the link to Tony Kent. Does that make sense?
Not a bit, but we'll see.
No, I'm sure we'll run with it.
We're working out. Yeah. Right. We'll see. Question number 1. American actor famed for From Here to Eternity, Gunfight at the OK Corral, and Birdman of Alcatraz. And of course, the answer before would have been Neil Lancaster. So what actor would it be?
Okay, now I'm with you.
Now you're with me. I'm going to have to come up with a good example. Here's a good example. If the first clue was Ben Bruce, and I said the next question was former Manchester United footballer to Newcastle, Birmingham and West Brom manager, would be Steve Bruce. It's that simple. We're just changing a name.
Well, I think I know. I'm pretty sure what the answer to the next question is going to be then.
Well, this is it. You can guess, and it helps you go backwards. But yes, so question number 1 again was American actor famed for From Here to Eternity, Gunfight at the OK Corral, and Birdman of Alcatraz. Question 3. This Hollywood superstar was well known for Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run. Who is he?
Question 2.
Question 2. Thanks, Tony. Question 2 again. Hollywood superstar, well known for Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run. Question 3. Canadian actor who plays Deadpool and recently bought Wrexham FC along with Rob McElhenney. Question 3 again. Canadian actor who plays Deadpool and recently bought Wrexham FC along with Rob McElhenney. Question 4. This Scottish professional footballer plays for Bournemouth and previously played for Celtic at Inverness Caledonian Thistle. Not far down the road from you, Neil.
No, around the corner. But I can't think of any Scottish. I can't think of any footballers. Full stop.
Well, that's got you, a little bit of a pickle. But if you got the last one, maybe you've got a little clue.
I think if you get 3 and 5, you can probably work it out.
Question 4. Scottish professional footballer who plays for Bournemouth and previously played for Celtic and Inverness Caledonian Thistle. And some people might have already worked out question 5 from that point. This British crooner is best known for his version of Is This the Way to Amarillo? So which British crooner is best known for his version of Is This the Way to Amarillo?
Oh, what's his surname? Yeah. And
then finally, your next answer will be Tony Kent. I had planned to ask you about writing together, if that had ever crossed your mind. But we've answered that question already, and we're starting to run a little bit behind time, so that's worked out quite nicely. So we can skip over that and go straight on this round. Question number 1: Who was the first answer? The American actor, famed
Burt Lancaster.
Indeed, Burt Lancaster. Which would lead us to question number 2: Smokey and the Bandit, Cannonball Run.
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds, yes. Question number 3: Canadian actor.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, indeed. Question 4: Scottish footballer. Played for
Ryan Christie.
Ryan Christie.
Yeah.
Question 5: Is This the Way to Amarillo? Was
Tony Christie.
And then we've arrived at Tony Kent. The amount of different iterations that went through. Bert and Ernie were in there. Dennis Wise was in there at some point. It was going nowhere fast. It was bloody hard, but we got there.
I've got 5 degrees of separation from him. I represented his brother.
There you go.
That would have made a really quick round.
Would it? Dare I ask on what charge, or can we not talk about that?
Did
you get him off? That's the question. Should we quickly
It was acquitted, so I can't really talk about it having told you who it was.
Fair enough. And should we toss up the scores before we go into the last round? Gents, do you know what you're on?
Let's have a quick look.
16 and a half.
16 and a half for Tony.
$16.
16. Oh, it's nice and close. We could end up with a draw there, which we might need some way of picking a winner and a loser. And to be fair, I did think about this, and I was thinking maybe a dance off, because Neil, you went to school with Anton de Beck, didn't you? So you might know a few moves from him. Is that?
I did. Well, I tell you what, I knew Tony. I knew him as Tony Beck, and he was in my class at junior school, and then he was at the same senior school as me, although not in the same class. And I remember him taking up dancing, and he got absolutely ruined, because I went to a big, rough secondary school, and he got absolutely ruined for it. But I guess he's had the last laugh, hasn't he?
Indeed, yeah.
And he's written some books, apparently.
There you go. We'll have to get him on.
Massive boxing fan.
I couldn't. Yeah, no. I apparently did do a bit of boxing. I remember him doing a bit of boxing.
Yeah, massive boxing fan.
Yeah, nice guy. Actually, a genuinely nice chap.
Excellent stuff. And Tony, with your boxing background, you must be pretty nimble on your feet. Did that carry through to the dance floor as well?
No, unfortunately, I've got the worst footwork of any boxer that you've ever met. My boxing ability was based upon being basically stronger than everyone else, being able to hit harder, and for whatever reason, I don't know if you can see scale on these things, but my head's massive, and you can hit me with an anvil and it doesn't hurt. I mean, which is all of those things I don't mind saying, because they're not boasting; they're just genetic. You're born that way. As far as boxing skill was concerned, I was pretty limited, and as far as footwork was concerned, I was shit. I always say to people, if sort of a 17-stone trained fighter couldn't make me dance, I'm afraid no one's making me dance. And my wife was a professional dancer, so that poor woman has had to live a life with a man who clumbers around, falling over her and squashing her feet while she used to do it for a living.
I'm an appalling dancer. My wife makes a joke that I look like a baby giraffe trying to stand up.
I feel like a dance off is definitely on if we get to a draw.
Yeah,
but with the half point in there, I think that's probably sailed away as we sail into the last round. And this month it's the general knowledge round again, but there has been a quick change to the general knowledge round in that it is now a quick fire general knowledge round. Yes, Donna, I can hear you saying, "What the fuck?" It's a new take on a tired old format. The quick fire round. Now I can hear you already saying, "How on earth?"
What buzzers?
How on earth are we going to do it? Exactly. Have we got buzzers? Do we shout out? No, that's not how this works. There's no shouting out. There's no answering in the chat. How does it work? Well, I am going to read out 15 questions as fast as I can, and you guys have got to write them down as fast as you can. That's as simple as that. Okay. I will read them out twice. I have timed myself doing that at 30 seconds per iteration. So maybe write 1 to 15 now to try and keep point. There'll be 2 run-throughs. So if you miss any out, you can get them the second time. I'm going to take a quick sip of my drink to wet the whistle. And then we will begin.
Okay.
Right, are we ready?
Yeah.
Paying attention, eyes down looking. The quick fire round. Question 1. The hammer used by judges is called a what? Name the Manchester United footballer who kung fu kicked a fan. Henry VII was the first monarch of which family? Who was the presenter of Whackaday? Which was the last state to join the USA? Name this NFL team. The Philadelphia what? Grilled bread is known as what? A 6-ball spell in cricket is called a what? 2 biggest football clubs in Glasgow are Celtic and who? Frozen water is better known as. What is the stage name of the rapper Marshall Mathers? What sense is primarily detected through the nose? The mathematical name for an 8-sided shape is. Your father's brother is your who? And what are the digits at the end of your feet called? I'll have another little breather. And we will go through that again for everyone else. I'll just let you have a quick think.
I think I've got them.
You got all 15?
All but 8. I don't know number 8.
Ooh, that is witchcraft. Well done, that man. Right.
Well, I've got to make sure I'm right. They can all just say,
are we ready? No, we'll go
they can all just say wibble.
Right. The hammer used by judges is called a what? Name the Manchester United footballer who kung fu kicked a fan. Henry VII was the first monarch for which family? Who was the presenter of Whack-A-Day? What was the last state to join the USA? Complete this NFL team, the Philadelphia Who. Grilled bread is known as what? A six-ball spell in cricket is called a what? The two biggest football clubs in Glasgow are Celtic and who? Frozen water is better known as. What is the stage name of the rapper Marshall Mathers? What sense is primarily detected through the nose? Mathematical name for an eight-sided shape is what? Your father's brother is your who? And what are the digits at the end of your feet called? I am an evil bastard, apparently. Thanks, Donna. At least I'm not going to say the answers as quickly. Although, you're welcome to do so, gents. Right, then. Before we get to the answers, let's give everyone a quick moment to catch up. What's next for you guys? Neil, I'll start with you. What's next for you in your writing while everyone just writes down their answers at home?
I've got there's
5, haven't you? Yeah.
There's definitely 3 more coming because I'm contracted for 3 more, 2 of which I've written. I am pretty hopeful they're going to want more. They're selling quite well.
Yep.
Despite Waterstone's vagaries at the moment of trying to get books in.
I reckon you're safe.
Yeah, they'll be all right. They'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident they're going to want more.
Yeah.
I have an idea for a standalone, which I might have had a little bit of a play around with, but I obviously have. And then something else which came up yesterday I can't really talk about that might be happening. But we'll see what happens with that.
All staying with crime, or are you thinking of branching out? Or
crime or thriller?
Yeah.
I mean, I still think of myself as a thriller writer. I don't.
Yep.
I mean, I'm pegged and pigeonholed as a police procedural writer, which I don't really like because I don't think I am one. I think I'm a crime. I think I'm a thriller writer.
Do you think that maybe comes because you are ex-police as well, and people sort of expect that of you?
Yeah, and I don't really talk about. I mean, even though the procedures are there, of course they are, but I try and say very little about them because it's quite boring, really.
I think the problem is for you, you're just writing what you know, and therefore you don't realise how much procedure is in them. And also the way you write the procedure is effortless. I mean, it's the classic iceberg thing, isn't it? You mentioned very much the 1%, and the 99% is definitely under the water.
Yeah.
But it's so confident. The way you do the procedure is so confident and obviously so accurate because of your experience that it does kind of peg you in that bracket. But I think someone said, didn't they? I think it may have been Ian Rankin actually. I think said, isn't it Line of Duty if it was starring Jack Reacher? Which I think is the perfect description.
Something like that.
The perfect description.
Like that. He said it started off.
It was Taggart meets 24. I think was what I.
Yeah, well, I was all right with that. No, I like that. That was a really
about right.
It's a funny one, and we at Bloody Scotland. We both went and saw your hero, David Baldacci, being interviewed.
He's the man.
Online by Fiona Cummins, who was fantastic, and his view was you need to do a lot of research. I mean, obviously, you don't need to do so much research. He goes, but then you need to show the reader basically none of it.
Yeah.
And that is the trick, I think, with research, and the same with pre-existing knowledge. I mean, Tony, obviously, you've written courtroom stuff, but if you told people what it's actually like, if you wrote a courtroom drama as a court case unfolds, you would kill everyone for boredom because
it'd be 2,000 pages long, and there'd be 3 pages that were fun.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's an act. It is a skill to learn or to be lucky enough to just know about showing research at the correct level. And not everyone gets it, and not everyone gets it right. And there's nothing worse than a really heavy police procedural book with too many procedures. I think it's really boring, and I can't read them.
Yeah. Excellent. And Tony, what's coming next for you? Have you got anything in the pipeline?
Well, I've got another. I've got to deliver 3 more books after this one. So this one will be delivered in the next month when we've done the structural edits. Has to be because I've got a trial starting in November, and there's no way I'm going to be doing a structural edit during that. So I'm going to deliver this book within the next month. I think once I've got past the rewriting of the opening, which is the part of the book where I was teaching myself the story, once I got past that, it will run much more quickly. That's the death part of it. And the second book I've started, the 6th book 6 I've started. I've had to stop and put that away now while I do the structural edit. I'll go straight back to that in November. I'm hoping to write that a bit more quickly. because I've got the idea much more fully formed in my head than I did for book 5, and it's a bit more straightforward. It's not quite as complicated. It's still sort of conspiracy and all that business, but it's not as complicated. The key with the current book I'm writing is the difficulty with it is to get the complexity and get rid of it, which is not so easy. But I'll be getting on to book 6. Well, I'm on book 6, and I'll be going back to that, get that done. I'd quite like to give myself a breathing space between book 6 and book 7. I don't know how realistic that is, but if I can give myself a breathing space, I've had an idea for a new series that I've spoken to Neil about, and I want to see if I can write it. So what I plan to do is give myself at least a 2-month window, a 2-month buffer between book 6 and starting book 7, so I can at least have a little pop at writing this new one. And it's much more what I know. Yeah. It's basically a completely different end of the genre, really. It will be a legal thriller, but it will be much more based in real life. It will be much more realistic than what goes on in Michael Devlin's life. I don't know many barristers who've seen quite as many guns as he has. And it will be an awful lot based on my life, or certainly the people that I encountered at the bar. So kind of a fictionalized take on reality, very, very darkly comic, because the bar, certainly it used to be, before everyone got depressed about legal aid, it used to be a very funny place. Yeah. And I'd like to see if I could write funny. In my head, I want to write almost a barrister's version of Slough House. Now, I'm under no illusions that I can write like Nick Herron. Don't get me wrong. This is not me going off on delusions of grandeur here. I know there'll be a massive difference in the eloquence of the two things, but I use that because it's the closest thing in terms of tone to what I've got in mind. So I'd like to give that a go. Whether I'll find the time, whether there's any realism in that at all, is another matter. But for me, that would be like a busman's holiday. I'd like to have a little pop at that.
Amazing. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much, gents, for giving us that little glimpse into what's to come. I'm sure that's got a few people watching kind of excited and so forth. Shall we get these final answers and declare a winner?
Yeah.
He seemed pretty confident that he got 14 of these. So let's find out. Question number 1. Let's just shout out the answers. Gavel, yes, that was an easy one for you. Question 2.
Cantona.
Eric Cantona, indeed. Question 3.
Tudor.
Yep, Tudors. Question 4.
Timmy Mallet.
Timmy Mallet, indeed. Question 5.
Now this one I'm not sure about. Hawaii,
indeed, was the last state one. Yeah. Question 6.
Is it the Eagles?
It is. Go Birds, the Eagles, the best team in the NFL right now. Question 7.
Toast.
Indeed. Question 8.
Over.
It is indeed an over. 9.
Rangers.
Indeed. Yeah. Question 10.
Ice,
baby. Yes. Number 11.
Eminem.
Indeed. 12 was
smell.
Yes. 13. Octagon.
Yep. 14.
Uncle.
Excellent. And 15.
Toes.
Well done. Excellent. Top those scores up. If people want to find out more about you, gents, where can we send them?
I'm not Twitter at the moment.
I am on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. I've got a website, Neil Lancaster Crime. I'm easy to find.
Yep.
Me too. I'm not on Twitter at the moment. I'll probably be back on it within 2 days. Facebook, obviously. I started a TikTok thing because I did a recording while I was in America, but that's the only thing that's on there. Everything that I'm on is under Tony Kent Writes, with an underscore for a few of them where you need that. Yeah. And I've got a website, tonykent.net.
Excellent stuff. We can all check those out. Right, scores, please, gentlemen. And if you're playing along at home, pop your scores in. Donna's got 20. Any advance on 20? We had 16.5 and 16 going into this round. I've got a feeling we'll be up into the near to 30s.
31.5.
31.5.
I got 2 wrong on that last one, so that puts me 2 points below that.
That would give you 29, which makes the winner Mr. Tony Kent, and the grand recipient of our wooden spoon, Mr. Neil Lancaster. Well done, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
I will treasure it forever.
We will get this sent up to Scotland for you. And you can await the postman, and we'll look forward to seeing the unboxing.
With bated breath.
Excellent stuff. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been great fun having you on. It's been
my pleasure.
Privilege. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much as well for everyone who's been playing along at home. It's been really great to be back, having had a month off. So thank you for tuning in. I've been Ben Bruce, and I will be next month. Take care. Good night.
Cheers. Take care.
Awkward.